please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
But moving on, Indira Gandhi became India's first woman defence minister when she handled the portfolio in 1975 and then again in 1980. But on both those occasions, she was also India's prime minister. So technically, India got its first full-time lady defence minister on the 3rd of September 2017 when Nirmala Sitharaman took charge. And that's why Nirmala Sitharaman is our next newsmaker of 2017.
When the list of new ministerial portfolios was released by the Prime Minister's office on the 3rd of September, there was a surprise.
I, Nirmala Sitharaman, do swear in the name of God.
Nirmala Sitharaman, who'd spent the first 3 years of the Modi government battling for India Inc. at the domestic and the international levels, was no longer Minister of State for Commerce. Her contribution had been noted and she was moved to South Block as India's Defence Minister. So India got its first full-time lady defence minister, and Sitharaman got not just a cabinet portfolio, but became a part of the elite cabinet committee on security, which also comprises of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister and the Finance Minister. As she took charge, Sitharaman made her priorities clear.
I shall be Raksha Mantri round the clock. My priority will definitely be the armed forces preparedness. It is important that the Indian armed forces receives all the attention in terms of giving them every necessary endowment and equipment which is necessary for them to perform their duty with the best of equipments available.
Sitharaman hit the ground running, and she did something two of her predecessors had not been seen doing. She reached out to the armed forces by visiting defense bases across the country. So she would be at the Indian Air Force Forward Base at Uttarlai one day, and at Kibitu, the easternmost Indian Army base in Arunachal Pradesh the next. And at every stop, her interactions were not restricted to just the officers. It was during one of these visits that Sitharaman won over Chinese troops with a charm at the border post of Nathula in Sikkim.
You know what namaste is?
Namaste.
No. Do you know what namaste is?
It's just to say ni hao.
So I say namaste.
Okay, listen. Namaste just ni hao. It's just
Namaste.
Ni hao.
Right?
Okay.
In her little over 4 months as Defence Minister, Sitharaman has also hosted several high-profile visitors to the ministry, including James Mattis, USA's Secretary of Defence, who was the first member of the Trump cabinet to visit India. At this meeting, Sitharaman shared India's views on issues of strategic interest, global security, and joint production of defence platforms, but put her foot down on issues concerning India's engagement with Afghanistan. Her message to Mattis was succinct. India will continue to build roads, hospitals and schools in Afghanistan, but it will not send Indian troops to the civil war-ravaged country.
We've made it very clear that there shall not be boots from India on the ground.
She has shown that she is as hands-on in her new role as she was in Commerce Ministry, where she won many a victory for India, championing the cause of Indian commerce and trade. But her biggest challenge as Raksha Mantri will be to ensure that Indian defence forces are well supplied and have the latest weapon systems to protect their country, and balance all that with Modi government's key initiatives like Make in India. In New Delhi, Rituparna Bhuyan.
I am more convinced than ever before about the future and potential of Tata businesses. That's the word coming in from Tata Sons Chairman N. Chandrasekaran to the group employees. In his letter outlining the group's agenda for 2018, the Tata Sons Chairman says, and I quote, "Globally, we find ourselves living in a time of deep transformation with many exciting new developments, coupled with a heightened sense of uncertainty. Global expansion in this coming phase of the cycle will rotate increasingly towards developing markets, especially India." End unquote.
He goes on to add, and I quote again, "The House of Tata remains a cornerstone of India's growth story and will continue to play an influential role on the global stage." It is in this backdrop that N. Chandra says, and I quote again, "As we move ahead, I am more convinced than ever before about the future power and potential of the Tata businesses with our diversified global footprint and our presence in the lives of almost 1 billion consumers. We are uniquely positioned. In order to achieve peak performance, we must focus on 3 things: simplification, synergy, and scale." End quote. And remember, long back, Mr. N. Chandrasekaran himself told CNBC TV 18 exactly what he has written in this letter in an exclusive conversation with Shireen in October. Take a listen.
I feel very bullish about the India story. Where in the world you will have such a large consumer base and such a situation where the affordable spend for the consumer will continue to increase for a long period of time, and the demography is such, the aspiration of the consumer will constantly increase. So it is a question of organizing ourselves, whether we may have a presence in a space today, we may not have a presence in the space today. Whether it is consumer, whether it is retail, whether it is financial services, organizing ourselves to address that aspiration is a huge opportunity, and I'm bullish on that.
Okay, moving on then, some bad news for McDonald hours and yet another setback for Connaught Plaza Restaurant Limited's Vikram Bakshi. Logistics partner Radhakrishna Foodland has terminated its contract with CPRL, leading to closure of around 100 of the 189 or 169 McDonald outlets in North and East India. CPRL claims that the contract was terminated without prior notice and that logistics partner Radhakrishna Foodland is holding back stock for close to 10 crore rupees paid by the company.
That's McDonald's views, but on the other hand, the logistics partner says the non-payment of dues by CPRL has led to termination of the contract. We learned from sources at Connaught Plaza restaurants that the company is exploring all legal options with respect to Radhakrishna Foodland's move, and is even looking to tie up with a new logistics partner to restore normalcy in operations. Remember, this comes in the backdrop of the ongoing legal tussle between Connaught Plaza Restaurants Limited, Vikram Bakshi, as well as global fast food giant McDonald's India.
Okay, shifting focus to the macros now, the rate of India's industrial production could slow down over the next couple of months. That's the indication from the SBI Monthly Composite Index, an indicator for manufacturing activity in the Indian economy. In December, the index has declined to 50.8, showing low growth in the month compared to 51.2 in November. However, the SBI report also says that even though the manufacturing momentum may have slowed down, the outlook for some of the sectors like fertilizers appear largely positive.
And meanwhile, business leaders in India are still positive about the growth prospects, but their optimism has dropped to the lowest level in the last 4 years. This according to a report published by Grant Thornton, and this even as business optimism in the Asia-Pacific region actually hit a 2-year high. Talking about sentiment in India, the report says the businesses here have had to deal with the impact of radical reforms such as demonetization, the goods and services tax, as well as a new bankruptcy regime in the last 12 months.
And 2017 brought with it an era of disruption and consolidation for the Indian telecom sector. From big bang mergers and acquisitions to game-changing regulations, it has been a year the telecom sector will remember for a long time. And not just because it ended with the CBI Special Court acquitting all the people accused by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate of being implicit in the 7-year-old 2G scam. This includes former Telecom Minister A. Raja, DMK's Kanimuzzi, and the heads of telecom companies like Swan Telecom and DB Realty. CNBC TV 18's Kritika Saxena takes a walk down the memory lane.
The story of the Indian telecom sector in 2017 had all the ingredients of a pacey Bollywood film.
The protagonist was Mukesh Ambani's Jio, which disrupted the industry with the lowest tariffs the country has ever seen. This had rivals like Vodafone, Idea Cellular, Bharti Airtel run for cover. Already reeling under a high debt burden, these companies were forced to cut tariffs. The resultant pricing pressure meant that something had to give.
And it did. So while 2017 started with 7 telecom players, it ended with 3. Much like Airtel Sunil Mittal predicted when the year began.
So it's going to be a interesting year of turbulence. 2017 will be a difficult year from revenue generation, will be tough on margins. but equally it's going to start to clear a lot of issues in the telecom industry, regulatory-wise, competition-wise, small players consolidation. So I would say if you meet sometime next year here, you could be finally down to those 4 players in the market.
Vodafone and Idea Cellular got the ball rolling by deciding to merge their India operations.
Basically, it's about the coming together of 2 companies who have huge complementarity, especially in terms of the assets that they own. I think that competitive intensity is always an important dynamic. It's always a trigger, and that's the reality.
Ensuring choice, ensuring that there are 5 big competitors and the Indians can choose from all of them, and there will be no difference whether you live in a village or where you live in the city. I think this is the logic. Of course, we need to preserve competition, and we intend to be one of the strongest.
Once done, the deal will give birth to India's largest telecom operator. But Airtel has also been busy. In February, it acquired Norwegian firm Telenor's India operations and then went on to buy Tata Teleservices' licenses in India in October. That left Anil Ambani's Arcom. Now in 2016, Reliance Communications had agreed to merge with Aircel. But with its debt burden climbing to 45,000 crore rupees and multiple lawsuits being filed against the company in the NCLT, that deal fell apart. Towards the end of 2017, Arcom has been trying to stave off being taken over by its lenders and hunting for buyers for its various assets. Aircel, meanwhile, is in the process of winding down its India operations. But consolidation was not restricted to operations. India's telecom infrastructure landscape saw a shake-up as well, when ETC acquired the tower businesses of Idea Cellular and Vodafone for $2.1 billion, and Bharti Airtel decided to explore options to buy Indus Towers. But the battle was not restricted to airwaves, operations and infrastructure. In July, Mukesh Ambani opened up a new front by launching the Jio phone, a feature phone with a boatload of goodies thrown in at an effective cost of 1,500 rupees to the customer, the lowest in the industry.
Is going to reinvent the conventional feature phone with a revolutionary device, an unmatched Indian innovation.
This does not mean telecom players were given a breather by policymakers. The government curveball by cutting the interconnect usage charges for telecom operators.
Like a typical Bollywood film for the Indian telecom sector. But just because the year has ended, that doesn't really mean that the movie has. As 2018 draws near, the sector is awaiting the final recommendations of an interministerial group on telecom mandated to revamp and reform the sector. Additionally, the government is also likely to finalize the net neutrality guidelines in 2018, which will level the playing field between OTT players like WhatsApp and Skype, etc., and traditional telecom players. In other words, picture abhi baki hai. In Mumbai, Kritika Saxena.
Well, the year is drawing to a close, but there's a lot of action happening in the commodity space, and Manisha Gupta joins us with a roundup of all that is happening in that space. Manisha, good morning. Tell us, crude is definitely making headlines this morning.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And, the surprising part is that even as it is the last week of the year, there are multiple hedge funds which still are buying into commodity and commodity funds, and that is keeping the volumes quite on the higher side. So the crude oil prices, yes, we have seen a new 2.5-year highs come in for both the varieties. The WTI crude is now hit above $60 per barrel, and we did see 68 come in for Brent as well. There have been concerns about the North Sea Fortis pipeline, which perhaps will now restart only in the early 2018. And now you have a pipeline explosion in Libya as well, with nearly 90,000 barrels of crude being lost on a daily basis. So the supply concerns, of course, are on the fore, and that has been supportive. Apart from that, the demand estimates from Asia have been on the positive side. Not just that, but the US and the Europe consumption has been higher. So that all really seems to be supporting the prices. We are now up nearly 17% for the Brent prices for this year. Not just crude, but you have seen a huge run-up come in for the metal space as well, with China really cracking down on pollution. It has told the biggest copper producer in China to halt all kind of production for the next 1 week, and that has taken the copper prices near 4-year highs. The weakness in US dollar has been supportive as well. So while it has been supporting all other commodities, the gold prices are inching up to nearly 4-week highs also. So almost everything in commodities started to gain up in the New York session yesterday, and Asia seems to be followed through for buying into that rally in the morning today.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for that. Both crude and metal prices in focus on the higher side. But what's moving from the equity markets are our indices, the Nifty at record highs above that 10,500 mark. But what's not are the cash market volumes. Remember, this is the last trading week of 2017. So the FII volumes, they've thinned. Average gross volumes close to around 2,000 crores. The domestic institutional investors pumped in on an average close to around 4,200 crores. So that's double of what the FIIs did. But just take a look at the Nifty futures. If you take a look at the Nifty futures, that one closed above the 10,500 mark, but the premium, that one came down and turned into a discount. A lot of people would say just ahead of expiry. Of course, there is time to expiry and that theta factor playing in, but it came into the discount with the FI selling close to around 49 crores in index futures. Rollovers around that 35% mark, but there were signs of some supply at higher levels, or maybe bulls just trying bears just trying to protect that 10,500 mark. The India VIX, that one too surged as the market moved higher, and the put call ratio, usually one would like the India VIX going down and the put call ratio going up. The put call ratio was absolutely flat at elevated levels of close to around 1.6 itself. So not much in terms of index futures, not much exuberance there rather. But if you take a look at the index options, the FIIs bought more positions in index calls, wanting to play the upside via options. They also added close to 8,550. That's 8,550 long puts that they've added, not 855, and they covered just about 116 short calls. Not just that, they added close to 6,800 short puts as well, believing that the downside is protected. So let's take a look at a couple of options then. 10,500 put, that one continued to see some writing, bulls really charging on to that mark. And not just that, they've gone on and to sell the 10,550 put as well, believing that there is more upside. And why not? Because the 10,500 call has the maximum open interest. If we sustain above that, all these shots will run for cover. 10,550 call writers, they thought that maybe they can protect the markets at that level. So 10,550 call saw a bit of writing. But I'll be watching out for a lot of stocks, Anisha, especially the ones which are in the F&O ban. Entering the F&O ban again are Jet Airways yesterday after that 8% move that we saw, HDIL too. Jain Irrigation and Reliance Capital have entered the F&O ban too. And after the big move that came by in yesterday's session, both Reliance Communication and Fortis, they are out of the F&O ban just 1 day ahead of expiry. So let's see what happens.
Okay, so a lot of important cues coming from the derivative space. Thank you, Mangalam, for that. But on to the bullseye corner now. Our contestants this week, Shayana Mukadam, Pankaj Jain and Ruchit Jain are battling it out for the strongest portfolio. Let's hear their picks for the day 2 of the last week of this year.
My first pick is GIC Housing. I buy it with a day target of 480 and a stop loss of 440. Second, Prestige Estates. I buy it with a day target of 330 and a stop loss of 280. Third, Reliance Capital. I buy it with a day target of 560 and a stop loss of 480. Fourth, I continue with yesterday's Tata Power. I buy it with a day target of 98 and a stop loss of 87.
First one is long call on Zen Technology with stop loss at 145, target price of 162. Second is long call on Orion Pro with stop loss at 221, target price of 245. Third is long call on HCL Info with stop loss at 56.50, target price of 62. Fourth and final is long call on Granules with stop loss at 135, target price of 146.
My first call today is a buy call in CSC with stop loss below 1035 for target of 1102. My second pick is a buy call in Redico Khaitan with stop loss below 274 for target of 316. My third call is a buy call in Jindal Saw with stop loss below 127 for target of 145. And my last pick is a buy call in Granules with stop loss below 132 for target of 145.